Hello everyone, this is Divya working as assistant professor in Triple E department at St. Peter's Engineering College. So in this lecture, I want to explain about the time response analysis and how to locate the poles and zeros on the S-plane. So further here I'm explaining this concept by using a PPT. So we will see about the time response analysis and how to locate the poles and zeros on the S-plane. So coming to the time response analysis, so in the time domain analysis, the time is independent variable, right? So when a system is given a excitation, so what will happen? A response will be existing there. That means the output will be occurs at the system, right? So in the time domain analysis, the independent variable is the time, and when a system is given excitation, a response will be existing there. The response is nothing but that is the output signal. And coming to the definition, the response of a system to an applied excitation is called as time response of the particular system, and it can be represented as the C of t. C of t is nothing but that is the output representation. Output is also called as the response. So the response of a system as applied excitation is called as time response, and it is indicated by the function C of t. And coming to this time response analysis, what is the necessity to do this time response analysis? That means, so from the types of inputs we can expect a system in general get an input which may be a sudden change in the input and a momentary shock in the input and a constant velocity input, or else a constant acceleration input we can give to a control system, right? So hence these signals form a standard test signals, and the responses to those signals are analyzed. So in the previous videos only I described, if you given which type of input and which type of output you can obtain for the control system, those are called as a standard test input. So standard test inputs are the step input or impulse input, ramp input, parabolic input. All these inputs are called as standard inputs, right? Or else standard signals. So if you are applying these standard signals to a control system, what are the outputs you are getting, and by differentiating these inputs, what are the output you are getting, and by integrating these inputs, what are the outputs you are getting? I described it already in the earlier videos. So here I am dealing with the step input signifies a sudden change in the input. That means a step is nothing but how you can draw a step input here, which is nothing but you have to take a particular constant equation initially, right? That means you have to consider a step input like this. Here I will explain it. Wait. So here a step input is nothing but here you have to draw like this, right? With a constant step, you have to represent the step input. So the step input can be signified as a sudden change. And coming to the impulse input, it signifies the momentary shock. That means at only one instant of time, the output will be occurs. At remaining all instants of time, the output will be zero. That means if you consider t is equal to 0 on x-axis, at only t is equal to 0, the output will be occurs. At remaining all other times, that means in the period t not equal to 0, the output must be equal to 0. That means it will give a sudden shock to a system. That's why it can be called as the impulse input signifies the momentary shock. Okay. And coming to the next signal, that is ramp input. Ramp input means it will have some slope. That means a line which is passing through the origin, right? That is a linear wave. That means for this ramp input, it will have some slope. Slope is nothing but velocity, right? So it signifies the constant velocity. We can say the ramp input signifies the constant velocity. And coming to the next input, that is parabolic input. So what is the parabolic input showing here? We have to draw a parabolic graph with reference to time period and the output system, right? So here if you consider a parabolic input as the input to a control system, so what it signifies, it will signifies a constant acceleration. Why? Because if you consider y is equal to mx square, That means what it indicates, it will have some slope but having with acceleration. So here we can consider the parabolic input with a significance of constant acceleration. So what about step input? The step input can be signified as a sudden change in the input. And what about impulse input? The impulse input can be signified as a momentary shock in the input system. That means if the input occurs suddenly at only one constant of time, that can be called as the impulse input, right? And coming to ramp input, the ramp input signifies a constant velocity, which is shown here. All of you see here. The ramp input signifies a constant velocity. And coming to parabolic input, it signifies a constant or acceleration. So this is about the inputs. That means the standard signals which you are giving, and by giving which type of signal, what is the significance of the system, which we discuss now. Clear? And coming to the next one, next we will deal with what is meant by pole and what is meant by zero. Clear? What is meant by pole and what is meant by zero. Okay. So to determine these poles and zeros, what we have to do? Initially, we have to consider a transfer function. Again, the transfer function can be represented with a gain or transfer function. So the gain is nothing but the gain can be represented with g of s, right? That means g, capital G, in terms of S. S is nothing but the frequency domain or Laplace domain or S domain. So G of S is equal to C of S divided by R of S. So C of S is nothing but the controlled output, that means the controlled variable, that is C of S, right? And coming to R of S, that is the input signal. That means the S domain input signal or Laplace domain input signal, or else we can also call it as frequency domain input signal, right? So by considering both C of S and R of S with their polynomial equation, you can write the equation like this. That means G of S is equal to, in terms of B, I taken an equation, and which should be in the form of S only. And also in the denominator, for the R of S, you have to consider the equation, right? So where K is the system gain and N is the type of the system, right? So this is the equation for the transfer function. You have to represent the transfer function like this, okay? And coming to the next one, here the poles can be obtained by considering the magnitude of g of s becomes infinity after the substitution of value in the denominator of the system. Those values are called as poles. That means if you consider a transfer function, if the denominator becomes zero value, that means the overall value of modulus of g of s has to become infinity. If we substitute the value of s in the denominator, then those values of s can be called as poles of the particular system or else poles of the transfer function. So to obtain these poles, what I have to do here, what is the question given to you? That is, determine the poles of the given transfer function. So here I consider g of s is equal to s into s plus 2 into s plus 4 divided by s into s plus 3 into s plus 4. Right? By considering the poles can be obtained by equating the denominator, which should be equal to 0. So here what is the denominator? S into s plus 3 into s plus 4, which should be equal to 0. So by equating this denominator to 0, I can obtain the individual equations as, here s means I can write it as s plus 0 or else s minus 0. So if I considered s plus 0 equal to 0, then what will be the equation for s? What will be the value for s? That is s is equal to 0, right? And what is the next equation? That is s plus 3 is equal to 0. If I consider s plus 3 is equal to 0, the value of s is equal to minus 3, right? If I consider s plus 4 is equal to 0, the value of s is equal to minus 4, right? So here what all the values I obtained for s, those are 0, minus 3 and minus 4, right? So these are the poles representation for the given particular transfer function, for the given particular control system. So these poles can be represented as, here I have to consider S plane. S plane is nothing but, on the x-axis you have to represent sigma and on the y-axis you have to represent j omega. These are real values and these are the imaginary values. So on positive y-axis you have to represent plus j omega, and on negative y-axis you have to represent minus j omega. And coming to positive x-axis, we have to take it as sigma, and coming to negative x-axis, you have to take it as minus sigma. Okay, so here coming to the positive x-axis, on the sigma axis we have to consider the values as 1 2 3 4 5 like that. And coming to the negative sigma axis, we have to consider -1 -2 -3 -4 and -5. We have to locate the points on the graph sheet. You have to take a normal graph sheet and you have to partition that graph sheet into 4 quadrants, like your x-axis and y-axis only. The x can be replaced with sigma and minus x can be replaced with minus sigma, and j omega, that means the y can be replaced with j omega and minus y can be replaced with minus j omega. So here I am taking only 1 unit difference between these ones. So you have to write the scale for normal graph also. Sigma is equal to 1 unit and j omega is equal to 1j unit. That means here the difference is 1j, right? So that's why I'm telling it as 1j. And coming to here, what are the poles we obtained here? By equating the denominator with 0, I obtained s is equal to 0, s equal to -3 and s equal to -4, right? So here I am substituting those values. That means I am locating, I am pointing those values on the s-plane. If s is equal to 0 means that is the origin. So here I have to represent that point. So every time the poles must be represented with a cross mark as shown here. You have to represent the poles with a cross mark like this. So s is equal to 0 means here I represented the pole at s is equal to 0 with a cross mark. Okay. And coming to s is equal to, what is the second pole? That is s is equal to -3. So s is equal to -3 means -3 is a real value, right? So -3 you have to represent on minus sigma axis, that is here. So here also it is also pole, you have to represent it with cross mark like this, right? And what is the next pole? That is s is equal to -4. So here you have to represent the -4 with a cross mark like this. So here what you are doing? You are representing the poles on the s-plane. So this is about the representation of poles on the x-plane. On the s-plane, you are representing all the poles which are given in the transfer function into the s-plane. So after that one, we will see how to determine the zeros and how to locate all the zeros into the s-plane. So for that reason, initially I am explaining about what is meant by zero, how we can define zeros. So the value of s for which the transfer function magnitude becomes 0 by substituting s value in the numerator itself is called as the zeros of the transfer function. That means when you are taking any s value, if you substituted this that s value in the numerator of the transfer function, if the overall magnitude of that gain, that means the magnitude of the transfer function becomes 0, then that value of s can be called as the zero of the particular transfer function or zero of the control system. So here if the given the same problem like this, determine the zeros of the given transfer function. The transfer function which is given to you is g of s is equal to s into s plus 2 into s plus 4 divided by s into s plus 3 into s plus 4, right? So here if you consider s into s plus 2 into s plus 4 equal to 0, why? Because to obtain the zeros of the transfer function, what we have to do, we have to consider the numerator value which should be equal to 0. So here what is the numerator? That is s into s plus 2 into s plus 4. So here I consider this value must be equal to 0. So if I'm equating the numerator with 0, what will happen? S is equal to 0 and s is equal to -2, s is equal to -4 I can obtain. So here what are the values of 0 for particular transfer function which is given here? That is s is equal to 0, s is equal to -2 and s equal to -4, right? So now what I have to do, I have to represent these zeros on the s-plane. So here I am considering the s-plane as I explained earlier. So in the place of x, we have to consider sigma. In the place of -x, we have to consider minus sigma. And in the place of y, we have to consider j omega. In the place of -y, we have to consider minus j omega, right? So what is the first zero we obtain here? That is s equal to 0. Always the zero should be represented with a 0 like this. That means the fully closed 0. That means the filled 0 you have to represent. So at origin, I represented a 0 with a circle. With a circle symbol also you can represent, or else you can fill the circle with the color also. Okay. So you have to represent s is equal to 0, that is the first 0 of the system. So I represented that first 0 at origin like this. Okay, and what is our second 0? That is s is equal to minus 2, right? So where the minus 2 will be exist on the s plane, that is on the LHS side, that means on the minus sigma axis, right? So at s is equal to minus 2, you have to point a circle like this. Okay, this is your second 0 for the given transfer function. And coming to third 0, that is s is equal to minus 4, here you obtain, right? So you have to locate that s is equal to minus 4 on the s plane, that means negative sigma axis. Okay, so this is the representation of zeros and poles of the control system of the transfer function on the s plane. So in the first problem we seen how to represent the poles on the s plane, and in the second problem we represented the zeros on the s plane. Okay, so in the next video we will see how to represent both zeros and poles on the s plane. Okay.